Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, and thank you for coming back.
As always, guys, thanks for being part of the family. And
Absolutely.
The family's big and diverse, really, and that's great. And there are those that really watch us more for the news end of things, and there's those that watch us more for the spiritual. There are those that watch us to incorporate everything and to try to see if they could expand their consciousness.
That's what it's all about. It's all about expansion. It's all about exploration, understanding, and these are the things that are inherited to us. This is what we get to come here to do, and it shouldn't be so disrupted.
Yes, and last night we had several instances of getting messages coming through. Again, Cindy's a very unique trance channel. She can go completely under and literally leave her body, and another being can come in and inhabit her body. She is protected by our guides when this happens, so no negative entities can stand in because the guides that are protecting her are very powerful and very high frequency. And she can also just simply converse and get messages through most of the time very clearly. The trance channel part comes through even clearer because it's less of her actually tinging or giving her impressions. It's less translating. So some trance channels, they have to translate, and this is where we get differences. Where when she steps out of her body, it's a being directly speaking through her. And she's very used to some of these beings, like Laurel from the Galactic Federation, Pleiadian High Council. And we have worked with them in multiple lifetimes. And it's so exciting to think of where we're going and what we're going to be able to do. Now, we have a period of time when, yes, literally, you could look at it from that biblical point of view and say, hey, Satan, the great adversary, and again, Satan's not just a singular individual, it's a system, it's a whole group, and it literally means adversary, the adversary to freedom and humanity and just life in general on this planet. Satan knows, the adversary knows, the controllers know their time is short. So they are very dangerous because their time is short. And this quatrain here from Nostradamus, and this is Century 1, Quatrain 91, the gods, quote unquote, will make it appear to mankind that they are the authors of a great war. Before the sky was seen to be free of weapons and rockets, the greatest damage will be inflicted on the left. It's very interesting, these quatrains. Now, Nostradamus, as we've shared, what we have gotten is that he comes back every Kali Yuga, as many people do. Many of the politicians that are out there right now, and we could name a few, certain Congress lady NP, NP, she was here in the Atlantean times, and she kind of screwed things up in the Atlantean times, but that's kind of what she does, so to speak. And then same thing with Rand Paul. Rand Paul was here. Rand and Ron Paul were here in Atlantean times, and they're trying to avert what's happening now. Yes, everybody is inhibited because, as far as humans go, because ultimately humans are not controlling the show. So if we look at world maps, typically we always see this layout, right? We don't see it like with typically, say for instance, Russia over here, and then we see, the US on the other side of it. They usually have it set this way. So if we're talking about his quatrain, what would be the greatest damage to the left? You would think, again, the United States. Maybe you're thinking all of the Western Hemisphere. Or maybe you're thinking the US and its allies in NATO. If the way things are breaking down now look to break down. With the Russian-China alliance, of course, there'll be other countries allied with Russia and China. North Korea, Iran, others as well. So it's interesting to see this quatrain, and it just came to mind to us because the guides were sharing that this is one of the things that's going on right now. We had a statement that was issued yesterday about how they would not, they're agreeing, the five big leaders are agreeing, five big NUKE powers, that they won't have an NUKE war. And, you know, that's great. But does that mean that they're trying to decide how the war is going to look? And that's actually the messages we get. Right now, they're making deals. They're coming to agreements. You got to understand this is a corporate world, and the corporations are controlled by non-human entities. And for some, this is going to sound way, way out there. But for anybody that has studied the history of things and looking into the mythology, it doesn't take too much study to figure out that we've never been alone, and that this world has been influenced by non-human beings before Homo sapiens ever came into being.
And I think it is a very important thing that as soon as we can all come to this understanding, it makes it easier to work as one, because the other controllers, they already know how to work as one. We're the ones who need to come together and accept this information. And I think it'll help us work tighter as one, because then we know what we're up against.
Absolutely. And again, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. The human experience side is a temporary thing. The body is just a vehicle, and the soul is eternal. And these beings, they really, unless we give our power away, they really cannot control us. And again, we are often tricked into giving our power away. So, you know, one of the things that a lot of people are buzzing on, because we're getting tons of people saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And this is the Russian military satellite that could hit Earth this week. They say it is coming down. They say it'll come down within like the next 36 hours. Some sources are saying it's very full of different types of fuels. This says, this is out of Daily Mail, tiny fragments could hit the Earth this week after the craft suffered a malfunction, but most will burn up in the atmosphere. So, you know, is there anything to worry about? Yes or no? Well, again, and what is, you know, is the official story the actual story? Well, you know, the guides did speak about this, and we're going to play some of that for you with Laurel talking about what's coming. Again, there are beings, it's very important to understand as we try to illuminate and give an understanding about what's going on the planet. And yeah, it could be pretty scary to come to the realization that humans are not in control of this planet. Now, people of a fundamentalist point of view might say, well, yeah, I mean, it even says so in the Bible that Satan's in control. But then they think of it in terms that are not physical, but not physical today doesn't mean it's not physical tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know, we are on a ascending path. And if we look at 3D, what's right above 3D? It's the lower astral realms. The lower astral realms are the area where all the nasties are, basically, so to speak. This is, again, you could think of things in terms of scales and octaves. So it's just like if we started out, you know, with the note A, and then we run through, you know, B3, the 7 different whole notes, and then you have your 5 sharps and flats, then you arrive to a new whole octave. It's like that as far as the densities. And so, you know, you start at the bottom again and then move your way up as you go on up. Now, the true heavens, so to speak, are really on 5th density and above, although existence is good when overall. When you move up into the middle part of 4D, you got to get past that lower part of 4D, because that's where all these nasties hang out. That's their realm. That's where the Anunnaki and the Draco mostly reside. And, you know, the actual planet Nibiru, which is more of a spaceship, is a 4D planet. That's why perhaps people do get glimpses of it here and there. And there will be a time when it will appear completely solid to us. It'll be on the same frequency as us at some point in time. Why are they not ascending too? Well, because they're stuck. And it's their self-centeredness, it's their lack of love, lack of compassion, lack of heart-centered living that keeps them just stuck. They are mired in the muck and they can go no higher.
Well, it's still their choice.
And it's their choice, ultimately. And they're trying to give that choice, and they want as many humans to make that decision as well, because they want company, and that's the bottom line. So here we see the path. Most likely scenario is it'll end up somewhere in the Pacific, and let's hope that's the case. And we do have help above as far as major events, although events have happened in the past that have been horribly destructive. Recognize that beings on the higher densities, and if we talk about the Anunnaki, for instance, yes, they have way more technology than we do, so they would appear to be as gods to us. But in reality, the technology of, say, the Galactic Federation is so far above them, and then the frequency where they resonate it with is way above them. So, spiritually, there are many humans walking this planet that are so much more advanced spiritually than the Anunnaki and the Draco. Mm-hmm. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, New Year's Day, you saw a meteor explosion. They confirmed it was a meteor from NASA, but was it? They say it was as powerful as 30 tons of TNT, and this is in Pittsburgh, and they found residue. So that they said, yes, it was a meteor, it was a fireball. See the area here. And it was a cloudy night, otherwise it would have been probably pretty spectacular. There is a link that I'm going to give you guys where you could follow the path of the Russian rocket, by the way. So I will give that link to you guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to play a message from Laurel right now, Galactic Federation.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I've kind of long suspected that they have technology, I'm sure they do, to guide asteroids or other just natural bodies that are out there into coming into the atmosphere. Just as there are benevolent beings out there that have technologies that deflect away potential threats to the planet.
Indeed, your suspicions are correct. Many people are correct in their assumptions about the different types of technologies that surround your planet. Much of what they claim to be chaos is not types of chaos. It is forms of alien technology that is very carefully guided and appears to be rocks. They claim to be ignited in the air above you, but it is very carefully choreographed. Some of them are ships, some of them are foreign bodies that someone is intending to create chaos. They are interrupted by those who are assigned to watch these areas. There are many things on your planet that they call foreign entities, but it is almost always a form of technology that is used to create confusion. or natural looking episodes of some kind.
Thank you for sharing that. We've been talking to Yeshua and the mothers about, at some point in time, the return of the ones that we call the Anunnaki and their intentions when they do return here to harvest what they can harvest, so to speak. Do you see this at some point in our timeline with the generator?
This disruption is very possible in your timeline while you are walking this planet. These foreign entities will come in with the careful guide of your controllers, announcing that these entities are wishing to bring relief to your planet. There will be much chaos during this time of mix of natural disasters and carefully choreographed disruptions on your planet. This is all very planned. This is written much like a chapter in a book. Everyone has a part to play, including many entities that you know by character through your media. This is created to cause true confusion and fear, creating much leash for the fourth density entities who do much of the work behind the scenes, who are always creating one situation after another to serve their masters. This is a time when there will be much more truth mixed with many lies, much confusion. This is a time when you must find your spiritual practice that we have been working with many people to create. This is a time to stand on your moral ground and do not get caught up in the confusion, even though things may be extremely chaotic, things may be very foreign to your understanding. The most important thing is to remain grounded, because this is going to be a certain peak in your evolution and peaking your abilities with your energies.
So I'm going to leave this one at this point right there as far as the message from Laurel, because there's much more that we need to preface. But I do want to get it across to you that they are preparing you for the reality that we are not alone. You are going to see non-humanoid beings. Many of you will, if we can make it through a very, very rough patch, which is directly ahead. I do feel that when they introduce them, it's after for the most part, the plague upon the land has carried out its purpose, and perhaps even after, the next great WW hashtag period ... number 3. This is a little bit farther out. This is, though, part of their big purpose with many of the channels, many of the sources of information that are out there that are verifying that these beings do exist. However, the caveat is that they are prepping you to accept them. And we will not see the true benevolent ones physically amongst us until we are in 5D. So when we're going through this 4D point, they are going to have a rollout of our quote-unquote saviors. And I think that's a very good word to use, because, again, this is the whole system of thought that they've implanted in us. And they may even offer us things like med beds and technology that will keep you alive for, hundreds, if not 1,000 years. It's going to look so tempting that many people are just going to just jump right on it.
Well, yeah, people are going to be exhausted. That's what they're doing to us right now. They're kind of emotionally getting us to a breaking point, and then they're going to offer up some magical thing and say, well, if you do this, you can have this relief. And that's what they do. That's been the story over and over.
Absolutely. So when you hear about things like Project Blue Book, fake alien invasion, and all that, or, what was given to us by, again, one of the top Nazi minds, Werner von Braun, who ended up being absorbed into and then running NASA. On his deathbed, supposedly, he said, well, they want to convince you of these things. And one of the things that they want to convince you of is that the Earth is going to get smacked by asteroids. The other thing is that there's going to be an alien invasion that we got to prepare for. And then again, so some people will say, see, there's not really any aliens, because, here he is on his deathbed telling us the truth. But again, it's all part of the plan. This is all part of their layers of covering up truths and giving us distortions, which, again, if we are under their control system, it's pretty obvious that the major belief systems are their belief systems. Mm-hmm. So, again, when you're talking about certain entities and how things have been twisted, we have to be very careful. For instance, the archangels are very real, and they are benevolent, and they do serve source. Yet there are certain other entities that we have been taught to think of as the creator of the universe, certain entity, and it's not the case. And in actuality, we're giving our power away to the Anunnaki Draco, because it's them. Mm-hmm. It's them, and it doesn't take too much to really see that if we open our heart and if we unclog our mind with their conditioning. Look to Revelation 22. Just look to Revelation 22 and then read the day of the Lord in Joel. And you'll see clearly this is not source. This is not benevolence. This is the exact opposite. This is the slave masters and their whole system. When we look to Tunguska, this was actually not just a random meteor.
No, absolutely not. This was something, again, very deliberate that was done. Luckily, there wasn't a lot of human loss here. It was a lot of territory, which is sad enough, and a lot of animals, which is harsh enough. But they have these energies and they have these technologies to use, and then they turn around and say, well, it was a natural event, and it's just not.
Yeah, so it speaks of it, and this is out of Wiki, which is rapidly turned into their ultimate belief system.
Yep.
The Tunguska event is the largest impact event in recorded history on Earth, but much larger ones have occurred in prehistoric times. If that was in a very populated area, it would have been devastating. But again, There are beings that are out there projecting benevolent force to move things in ways where they're not going to cause a lot of damage. So again, when we look at us, on a physical plane, and 3D appears physical to us, but for those that are used to living on 4D or 5D, that's their physical realm. So it's all relative. So we are basically 1 foot in 3D, the other foot is on the way to landing in 4D right now. And then we will pick up the back foot and we will be in full dream time, as the Australian Aboriginals say. So we will be first going into the lower astral realm. And again, this is the realm where the Anunnaki reside and where the Draco reside. Whereas the Gigi themselves are 3D beings like us. And, many of them are interbred with humans now as well, when it's the Gigi lineage that's actually the controllers. So, we're going to be stepping, as we're going up through the natural progression of ascension, into that tough place right now. And when we were in this before, this is when you see these reliefs. You see the people that have the technology that look very human-like, and they're up in the sky. And you see humans with their hands tied behind their backs, their necks roped together, because they're being viewed as and used as slaves. And, there was a whole species of being which is known as Homo florensis now, or the Hobbit beings, that we were told last night, that whole lineage. Now, we found some bones in Sumatra, and these beings are very real. They're only about 3 feet tall, but they were using these beings because they were very easy to control for labor. And they did take some of these beings off planet, and it wasn't good because they couldn't adapt and they couldn't survive, so they basically died out. Now, there are whole groupings of beings that have decided they want out of here, and they're gone, and there's like no trace of them. Now, they weren't necessarily taken technology-wise. They ascended, or you could think of it in terms of they shifted and jumped timelines en masse and took off because they didn't want to be on a world that was under the rulership of these beings. When we look to the Vedas talk of the time when these beings were coming here, the Asuras, the demonic ones, that would land in their ships and just take over a city, and would have a temple created to them, and they would go sit in that temple, and they would demand the best food, the best wine, the best women. And this is where we get a lot of our legends, again, about inbreeding and hybrids and stuff. Whereas in the previous times, when we were in 5D and still in upper 4D, these benevolent beings could appear to us, and now they taught us. Now, they taught us the secrets of the universe, how consciousness really works. And that leftover knowledge is in much of the Eastern philosophies that we see out there, like Taoism, like the Sanatana Dharma, and we see in other schools of thought also, like with Buddhism, where there's a lot of leftover knowledge that's there. It's also hidden in the Western mystery tradition. And it was also well known to all the indigenous peoples. And that's why when the system, the control system, through using the church, came over into the Americas, it wiped out over 100 million people that were basically people that understood how the universe works. They still remembered the ancient teachings of the ancient shining ones, the shining fifth dimensional beings, the beings that appeared to them as beings of light in the times when we were up in much higher vibrational frequency. They remember those teachings. Why do we do mantras? Because when we're talking about beings like Ganesh, and we did a mantra to Lakshmi yesterday that we uploaded, these are those beings. These are the fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, seventh dimensional beings that are at a much higher frequency that truly are benevolent. And they are also in other systems. And that's the thing to recognize, that mankind is the creator of these dogmas through the control of the puppet masters, these secret societies, ultimately the Gigi, Anunnaki, the Draco, and others. As well as we know, there's different types of greys that work with them, as well as some other species that we don't even see, that are hidden behind the scenes that might frighten us too much to actually see them.
It would, as far as being on this 3D realm, there's just too many things we have not been exposed to that if we were exposed to, there would be problems. There would be serious problems.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we are rising up, and so the truly benevolent ones will be able to contact us more as we rise up. As we step out of the 3D realm, more and more people will be able to interact with the beings, the shining ones, the fifth density, sixth density, seventh density beings. When we look to things like the Book of Enoch, which, talks really in the inverse about how things truly are. It's again the control system, and we think, oh wow, we discovered the Book of Enoch. This is great. It explains all about Genesis 6, that we get that tiny little blurb. But again, this is them again releasing at a time frame information to again distort the truth. Because the Book of Enoch talks about the beings that gave us knowledge and makes it to be a bad thing. Again, if you look to the word Lucifer, means light bringer. Lucifer is really related to Venus and the morning star, and that's goddess energy. And Venus is actually a much higher frequency planet than Earth is at this point in time, with the beings that are living on it, and many are on 5D. So again, it's all a distortion, but that's to be expected because we're in their system.
Right. It's far more polished. The entities on Venus are beautiful. The area on Venus is beautiful. It's just something that we're going to see one day, but we need to learn to unite.
Yes. So yeah, it talks about these horrible wars that occurred as the Earth descended towards and into that lower 4D realm, which we are heading into right now. And the Hindu texts describe flying vimanas. These are obviously ships and details of an ancient NUKE war with other technologies. So this, going back to Nostradamus, this horrible war that's going to look like the gods are bringing, what we've gotten is that, this is, again, you're going to be seeing ET technology that we have never seen before out in the open. And really what they're doing, just think about it in terms of this is what they're doing is they're showcasing their weaponry to all sorts of extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings. This is going to be like going to a gun show, so to speak. The Earth is going to be the host of this quote-unquote gun show. All the different weapons that have been developed by places like DARPA over the years and others that we don't even know of, and they're going to be showing and testing out, and you're going to have all sorts of non-human entities watching the show.
Right. This is a time where they're going to show these devices, and they're going to be very alien to us, extremely alien, and it is going to be scary. It's not going to be something that's normal or natural, and this is where you get into the Nostradamus prophecies about the gods shall show a great war.
And about 12,900 years ago, we have the Younger Dryas extinction, which wiped out just about everything over 100 pounds on the planet. Almost. Yeah, it was just a massive extinction. What was it? Well, this was technology, and this was a war. This was a war, and this is what Cindy and I have felt when we're out there in the American West, and we've seen some relics of stuff that looks like the bones of giants, because it was. And you know, places where people all of a sudden just looked up briefly into the sky and there was a flash, and then there was no more towns, no more cities. This is, again, it's all about where we are in the yugas. And so this is where we're coming back to. And of course, they say it was probably an asteroid, probably a comet. Well, actually, this was a major war that was ongoing, and tons of destruction. We could see these Carolina bays, which are all impacts, all throughout the eastern U.S. and also, you know, all the way over towards New Mexico and all the way up, you know, into the upper Midwest as well as Canada. There's so much evidence of all these things firing down. Impacts. These are impacts. Glacier ice impact hypothesis. Yeah. They're not going to tell us it's wars going on between extraterrestrials. That's too scary to handle.
Right. They're going to put what they want to put in their own history books. But it was so difficult to drive through. I had to drive. Mike, he's such an empath. He was picking up on these energies were so strong that it was making him shake. It was terrible.
Yeah, I literally couldn't keep driving with towing the trailer. I had to pull over and let Cindy drive, and I almost never let her drive.
Yeah, I know.
No
he
offense.
Let me drive. No offense.
No offense. But yeah, it was just overwhelming me. I was just feeling the people and the destruction and the everything coming down from above that they just, many of them didn't understand, because when we look to these societies, the earth has held civilizations on it that are Stone Age, and then those that are well beyond us technologically at the same time for a long time. This has been kind of a norm. And even right now, there are hidden civilizations of very high technology on the planet, in the planet, under the oceans. And, you know, it's just the way that it is. But they do remain, for the most part, hidden. But we are heading into a time when we will see openly others that are not human amongst us.
Right.
So again, don't go on the first ships.
No, please.
No. It's, again, that old to serve man, for those of you that have watched, what was it, Twilight Zone?
Yeah,
I think so.
To serve man.
Yeah. It's not a good scenario. So, as always, guys, thank you so much. We're going to go into a lot more detail on this, because we could honestly talk for 24 hours straight with all the detail that we've gotten. We will be sharing more with you. But we do want to thank everybody out there that's supporting us on Patreon and Ko-Fi. Do check out evolutionaryenergyarts at Gmail. Well, that's how you can reach us, but evolutionaryenergyarts.com. And check out our website. And also Medicinal Foods, again, great people. Use coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off your order. There's a link at the top of every video. Stay prepared. Have a good spiritual practice, because, again, you know, the body might be temporary, but we truly are eternal. Yes. And it really is what they're battling for. It's a battle for our souls.
Absolutely.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.